The spark of defiance. The war began as all wars do, with a spark, a single act of aggression that lit a fire too big to control. The Trizarian Dominion, an alliance of 3 powerful alien species, had long scoured the galaxy, imposing their rule on weaker worlds. Their empire thrived on the subjugation of others, and Earth was next on their list. When their sleek, monolithic ships appeared in orbit, humanity stared in awe. But awe soon turned to horror as the demands came. The Trizarians wanted Earth's resources, its land, and its people. Humanity would be allowed to serve as laborers or offer tribute, but Earth would no longer belong to them. The ultimatum was clear: surrender peacefully or face annihilation. For the Trizarians, this was routine. They had subjugated countless planets over centuries, rarely encountering significant resistance. Most species submitted, cowed by the overwhelming technological superiority of the Dominion. But Earth, they discovered, was different. The first contact. It was Commander Threx of the Zarian fleet who first reached out to humanity. His transmission played across every screen and communication device on Earth, his towering chitinous form framed by the cold steel of his command deck. People of Earth, he intoned in his deep, resonant voice, you have been graced with an offer of survival. Join the Dominion, and you will be spared. Resist, and your world will burn. Choose wisely. The world's leaders convened in an emergency session. Debate raged for hours. Some argued that humanity had no choice but to surrender. Others insisted that freedom was worth any cost. The deciding voice came from an unlikely source. Dr. Ilara Vaughn, a scientist and diplomat who had worked tirelessly to establish Earth's first rudimentary spacefaring initiatives. They see us as weak because we are young, she declared. But youth is not a weakness. It's our greatest strength. We adapt, we innovate, and we never stop fighting for what we love. If we surrender now, we lose everything that makes us human. If we fight, we may lose, but at least we'll have tried. The room fell silent. Her words spread like wildfire across the globe, igniting a spark of defiance in hearts that had been heavy with fear. The answer to Commander Threx's ultimatum was unanimous. Humanity would fight. The first blow. Earth's first act of resistance was symbolic but powerful. As Threx's fleet positioned itself over major cities, sending dropships to begin their occupation, a small team of human pilots launched an audacious assault. Their mission was to destroy one of the Dominion's planetary landing beacons, a critical piece of technology that guided the massive warships to their landing zones. The team consisted of volunteers, ordinary people turned heroes by extraordinary circumstances. Among them was Captain Marcus Steele, a former Air Force pilot with a reputation for reckless bravery, and Lieutenant Aisha Patel, an engineer who had helped retrofit Earth's aging aircraft with salvaged alien tech from a previous, unrelated crash site. Their makeshift fighters were no match for the Dominion's advanced ships, but they had one advantage: the element of surprise. As the Dominion forces descended, Steele's squadron attacked with precision and ferocity. They moved unpredictably, exploiting the terrain and the Dominion's unfamiliarity with Earth's atmosphere. Despite suffering heavy losses, the humans succeeded in their mission. The beacon was destroyed in a fiery explosion visible from miles away. The loss was insignificant to the Dominion's overall strength, but it marked the first time in centuries that an unaligned world had struck back. To Threx, it was a minor annoyance. To humanity, it was proof that the invincible could bleed. The awakening. News of the victory spread rapidly. For the first time, humanity realized that they weren't entirely powerless. The governments of Earth united in a way that had once seemed impossible, pooling resources and knowledge to create a unified resistance effort. Factories shifted from producing consumer goods to building weapons and defensive systems. Scientists worked around the clock to develop new technologies, often repurposing salvaged Dominion equipment. Dr. Vaughn became a symbol of hope, her broadcasts rallying the global population. They underestimated us because we are different, she said in one of her most famous speeches. They don't understand what it means to be human. We are not just individuals. We are a collective, a family, and we fight for each other. The Dominion responded with increasing brutality. Cities were bombarded, entire regions reduced to rubble, and millions lost their lives. But for every atrocity, humanity's resolve only hardened. Underground networks formed, coordinating guerrilla attacks and sabotaging Dominion operations. Farmers became soldiers, engineers became tacticians, and children grew up faster than they should have, learning to survive in a world at war. The turning point. Months into the conflict, Earth's resistance achieved something extraordinary. Using captured Dominion technology, they managed to reverse engineer a device that could disrupt the Trizarian fleet's advanced communication systems. The device, nicknamed Havoc, was a masterpiece of ingenuity, designed by a team led by Patel herself. The Resistance planned a daring operation to deploy Havoc in low orbit, directly targeting Threx's command ship. The mission was perilous. The Dominion would detect the launch immediately and retaliate. But success could shift the balance of power, giving humanity its first real advantage. As the launch countdown began, the Resistance fighters gathered to say their goodbyes. Steele and Paddle, now close friends, shared a quiet moment. "You think this will work?" Steele asked, his usual cocky demeanor replaced by a rare vulnerability. Paddle smiled, her eyes filled with determination. "It has to." The launch was a spectacle of defiance, a gleaming rocket cutting through the night sky. Dominion fighters scrambled to intercept it, but Earth's forces held them off long enough for Havoc to reach its target. The device activated, sending a pulse of energy that rippled through the Dominion fleet. For the first time since the invasion began, their ships went dark. The aftermath. The success of Havoc didn't end the war, but it changed its trajectory. With their communications crippled, the Dominion forces were forced to fight on humanity's terms. The battle for Earth became a brutal stalemate, with neither side willing to concede. But in that stalemate, humanity found hope. As the dust settled from the day's battles, Dr. Vaughn addressed the world once more. This is not the end. It's not even the beginning of the end, but it is, perhaps, the end of the beginning. We are humanity, and we will endure. And so, the spark of defiance grew into a flame that refused to be extinguished. Humanity was no longer fighting for survival. They were fighting for victory. And they were just getting started. Shadows in the void. The Dominion's defeat at the hands of Havoc sent shockwaves through their ranks. For centuries, they had operated with a sense of absolute superiority, unchallenged by any species. Yet now, this fledgling planet, this insignificant blue dot, had not only resisted but struck a blow that disrupted their entire fleet. The loss of their advanced communications network plunged their once coordinated forces into disarray, forcing them to confront a reality they had never anticipated. The humans were dangerous. The broken chain. Commander Threx, seated on his darkened bridge, watched as technicians scrambled to restore order. Holograms of Dominion ships flickered erratically on the displays, their once precise formations now scattered and vulnerable. The silence of the command network was deafening, a reminder of the humans' audacity and cunning. How long until communications are restored? Threx demanded, his mandibles clicking in frustration. "Uncertain, Commander," replied the lead technician, his translucent, insectoid wings twitching nervously. "Their device corrupted the quantum lattice. We are rebuilding it node by node, but the humans have bought themselves time." Threx leaned back, his compound eyes narrowing. Time was a luxury he could not afford to give them. He understood now what the humans were: unpredictable, irrational, and unrelenting. They were a problem he needed to crush quickly, or they would grow into something far worse. The Underground Alliance. On Earth, the Resistance was thriving in the chaos. Havoc's success had emboldened humanity, galvanizing them to take even greater risks. With the Dominion's fleet in disarray, guerrilla operations became increasingly effective. Resistance cells across the globe coordinated attacks on supply lines, ambushed patrols, and hacked Dominion systems to gather intelligence. Every small victory fueled their determination. Dr. Ilara Vaughn, now the de facto leader of Earth's resistance efforts, convened her team in a hidden bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room buzzed with activity as engineers, scientists, and strategists pored over maps and data streams. "We've disrupted their communications, but they'll adapt," Vaughn said, her voice steady but urgent. "We need to hit them harder, take advantage of their disorganization while we still can." Lieutenant Aisha Patel, seated at a cluttered workstation, nodded in agreement. "We've intercepted fragments of their communications. They're trying to re-establish their command network, but it's slow going. If we can target their repair efforts, we might be able to prolong their vulnerability." Captain Marcus Steele leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. "I like the sound of that. Hit them while they're down. But we need more than sabotage. We need a way to take the fight to them directly." Vaughn's eyes lit up. "I might have an idea." A dangerous proposal. Her idea was bold, almost reckless, but it held the potential to turn the tide of the war. Vaughn proposed a mission to infiltrate one of the Dominion's damaged ships and steal their technology, specifically, the schematics for their advanced propulsion systems. If successful, humanity could reverse engineer the technology, giving them the means to build their own fleet capable of striking beyond Earth's atmosphere. "It's a suicide mission," Steele said bluntly, though there was a spark of excitement in his eyes. "Maybe," Vaughn admitted. "But if we succeed, we won't just be defending ourselves. We'll be taking the fight to them." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. For months, humanity had been playing defense, reacting to the Dominion's moves. This mission would change that. It would be a declaration that Earth was not merely surviving. They were fighting back. Patel broke the silence. "We'll need a team, a small one, to avoid detection. And we'll need to figure out how to get them on board a Dominion ship without being blown to pieces." Steele grinned. "Sounds like my kind of job." Operation Shadow Strike. Preparations for the mission, codenamed Operation Shadow Strike, began immediately. Patel led the engineering team in modifying a stolen Dominion dropship to bypass their security protocols. The ship was fitted with stealth plating and a jury-rigged propulsion system designed to mimic Dominion signatures. Every detail had to be perfect. A single mistake would mean death for the crew. The team selected for the mission consisted of Steele, Patel, and 3 other resistance fighters, each chosen for their unique skills. There was Ramirez, a demolitions expert, Lin, a hacker with unparalleled skill, and Okoro, a former astronaut with experience in zero-gravity operations. As the dropship was loaded with supplies and equipment, the team gathered for one final briefing. Vaughn addressed them, her expression grave but hopeful. "You're walking into the lion's den," she said. "The odds are against you, but if anyone can pull this off, it's you. Remember, this mission isn't just about stealing technology. It's about proving to them, and to ourselves, that humanity will not be conquered." Into the fire. Under the cover of night, the dropship launched from a hidden base, its engines whisper quiet as it ascended through Earth's atmosphere. The team sat in tense silence, the weight of their mission pressing down on them. As they approached the Dominion fleet, Patel's modifications were put to the test. The stealth plating held, and the ship slipped past the Dominion sensors undetected. Their target was a mid-sized frigate, its hull scarred from recent battles. Approaching docking bay, Okoro announced, guiding the dropship with practiced precision. "Prepare for entry." The ship shuddered as it latched onto the frigate's airlock. Steele led the team inside, their boots clanking softly against the metal floor. The interior was eerily quiet, the usual hum of Dominion systems muted by the damage caused by havoc. Lin immediately got to work, hacking into the ship's mainframe to locate the propulsion schematics. Meanwhile, Ramirez and Okoro set up defensive measures, preparing for the possibility of discovery. Paddle and Steel moved deeper into the ship, searching for additional intel. Their luck held, for a time. Lynn successfully extracted the schematics, and the team began their retreat. But as they neared the airlock, an alarm blared. Dominion soldiers, alerted to their presence, descended on them in force. "Move," Steele shouted, firing his weapon to cover their retreat. The team fought their way back to the dropship, the narrow corridors amplifying the chaos of the firefight. Ramirez tossed a grenade behind them, the explosion echoing through the ship as they dove into the airlock. Patel's hands flew over the controls as the dropship disengaged and sped away. Dominion fighters pursued them, but Okoro's expert piloting and the ship's stealth systems allowed them to evade capture. By the time they returned to Earth, the team was battered but alive and victorious. A new dawn. The stolen schematics were a treasure trove of information. Patel and her team immediately set to work deciphering the data, their efforts laying the foundation for Earth's first fleet of advanced starships. The success of Operation Shadow Strike marked a turning point in the war, proving that humanity could not only survive but thrive under pressure. As the first prototype ship took shape in a hidden hangar, Vaughn addressed the world once more. "This is the beginning of something greater than any of us. We are not just defending Earth. We are reaching for the stars. And we will show the galaxy what it means to be human." The spark of defiance had grown into a flame, and now that flame was spreading. Humanity was no longer content to survive. They were preparing to rise. Embers of resistance. The Dominion, reeling from the audacity of Operation Shadow Strike, found itself locked in a battle it had never anticipated. For millennia, their conquests had followed a predictable pattern: intimidate, subjugate, and dominate. But Earth's resistance had shattered that pattern. The humans weren't just a nuisance. They were an existential threat to the Dominion's authority across the galaxy. A galaxy watching. As the conflict dragged on, whispers of humanity's defiance spread beyond the Dominion. Across the stars, countless species, some subjugated, others too weak or afraid to resist, began to take notice. Stories of the humans' ingenuity and unyielding spirit reached even the farthest corners of the galaxy. For the oppressed, these stories were a beacon of hope. For the Dominion, they were a ticking time bomb. On planets like Thalax and Vrigan, citizens began to secretly celebrate Earth's victories. Underground movements adopted the humans' tactics, sabotaging Dominion installations and spreading propaganda that painted the humans as saviors. The spark of rebellion was spreading, and the Dominion knew it had to extinguish it before it consumed them. A divided Dominion. Commander Threx was not a creature prone to doubt, but even he felt the strain of the prolonged conflict. His once unquestioned authority was beginning to falter as reports of insurrections across Dominion space flooded his command deck. The humans' influence was undeniable, and even his most loyal officers began to whisper questions they had never dared to ask. How can one species, so young and primitive, defy us so completely? One officer asked during a council meeting. Threx's mandibles clicked sharply. They are not primitive. They are reckless and cunning, and that makes them dangerous. But they will fall, as all others have. The council remained silent, though doubt lingered in their compound eyes. Threx knew that if he could not crush the humans soon, his position, and perhaps the Dominion itself, would be at risk. The resistance grows. On Earth, the resistance was evolving. What had started as a desperate fight for survival was now a coordinated global effort. Factories hidden deep within mountains churned out weapons and armor, while scientists worked tirelessly to decode the Dominion technology stolen during Operation Shadow Strike. Dr. Ilara Vaughn oversaw these efforts with tireless determination. The propulsion schematics retrieved from the Dominion frigate had been the key to humanity's next great leap, the construction of the Eos, Earth's first interstellar warship. The vessel, sleek and formidable, was designed to not only defend Earth, but also strike at the Dominion's heart. As the Eos neared completion, Captain Marcus Steele was chosen to lead its inaugural mission. Steele, already a legend within the Resistance, took the assignment with his characteristic bravado. "We're not just building a ship," he told his crew during their first briefing. "We're building a message. The Dominion thinks they own the stars. Let's remind them that they don't own us." The Shadow Network. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Aisha Patel spearheaded another critical initiative: the creation of the Shadow Network, a vast web of covert communication channels designed to outmaneuver the Dominion's surveillance systems. The network allowed resistance cells to coordinate across continents, sharing intelligence and planning strikes with unprecedented precision. Patel's team also began reaching out to the alien species inspired by humanity's defiance. Through encrypted messages, they offered guidance and support, teaching others how to resist the Dominion. The Shadow Network became a lifeline for these burgeoning rebellions, linking them to Earth's struggle and creating a sense of unity across the galaxy. One such message reached a planet called Valorous, home to the Xiren, a once proud species reduced to servitude under the Dominion. The Xiren, known for their unparalleled craftsmanship, had long been forced to build weapons for their oppressors. Inspired by Earth's example, they began secretly sabotaging their work, creating flaws in the Dominion's ships and weapons that would later be exploited by the Resistance. The Dominion strikes back. The Dominion, aware of the growing threat, launched a brutal counteroffensive. Threx's fleet bombarded Earth's major cities with renewed ferocity, targeting factories and Resistance strongholds in an effort to cripple humanity's ability to fight. The bombardments caused immense devastation, reducing entire regions to rubble and claiming countless lives. Despite the losses, humanity refused to yield. For every factory destroyed, another was built. For every soldier lost, two more stepped forward. The Resistance adapted, moving their operations underground and scattering their forces to avoid further concentrated attacks. The Dominion's aggression only fueled humanity's resolve. Dr. Vaughn delivered a broadcast that echoed across the globe and beyond, carried by the Shadow Network to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. "They think they can break us with fear," she said, her voice unwavering. "But fear is their weakness, not ours. We have faced death and destruction, and still, we rise. They cannot defeat us because we are not fighting for survival. We are fighting for freedom. And freedom is a fire that cannot be extinguished." The EOS rises. As the EOS was finally unveiled, the world watched with bated breath. The ship represented more than just a technological marvel. It was a symbol of humanity's defiance and ingenuity. Standing on its bridge, Steele addressed his crew. "This is our time," he said. "For too long, we fought in the shadows, reacting to their every move. But now, we take the fight to them. The Dominion believes they own the galaxy. Let's show them what happens when you push humanity too far." The EOS launched amid cheers and tears, its engines roaring as it ascended into the sky. Its mission was twofold: to strike a decisive blow against the Dominion and to inspire the galaxy to rise. A new ally. During its maiden voyage, the EOS received a distress signal from a Dominion prison ship. The signal came from none other than a Xiren rebel leader named Kaler, who had been imprisoned for his role in sabotaging Dominion operations on Valorous. Steele and his crew debated whether to respond. Rescuing Kaler could jeopardize their mission. But in the end, Steele made the call. "If we ignore their distress, we're no better than the Dominion," he said. "Besides, allies are worth the risk." The rescue mission was a daring operation, involving a high-speed assault on the prison ship and a firefight in its narrow corridors. Kaler, a towering figure with iridescent scales and a calm demeanor, proved his worth by helping Steele's crew navigate the ship and free dozens of prisoners. "Your bravery is contagious," Kaler said as he joined the crew of the EOS. "Perhaps together, we can teach the Dominion that the stars belong to no one." A spark becomes a flame. The rescue of Kaler and his fellow prisoners marked a turning point. Word of the EOS and its crew spread across the galaxy, inspiring rebellions on countless worlds. Humanity's defiance was no longer an isolated struggle. It was a movement, one that threatened to unravel the Dominion's grip on the galaxy. Back on Earth, Vaughn watched as the flames of resistance spread. She knew the road ahead would be long and perilous. But for the first time, she allowed herself to hope. "We started as embers," she whispered, staring at the stars. "Now we are a fire. Let them come. We will not falter." The battle was far from over, but humanity had found its place in the stars. And they were just getting started. The fractured empire. The Dominion was beginning to fracture. Earth's defiance had done more than disrupt their military operations. It had shaken the foundation of their vast empire. For centuries, the Dominion had relied on fear and control to maintain its grip over the galaxy. But fear was no longer enough. Stories of humanity's resilience and ingenuity were spreading faster than the Dominion could suppress them, igniting revolts on dozens of worlds. For the first time in its long history, the Dominion was facing a threat it could not easily crush. Seeds of dissent. Commander Threx, now visibly weary, stood before the Dominion's ruling council. The Grand Chamber, once a symbol of power and unity, now felt suffocatingly tense. The council members, representatives of the three species that formed the Trizarian Dominion, argued bitterly about how to handle the escalating crisis. "This rebellion on Earth is more than an inconvenience," growled Valakar, a hulking, reptilian Zarian. His scales gleamed under the harsh light of the chamber. "It's an infection. If we don't stamp it out now, it will spread to every corner of the galaxy." "We've tried brute force," countered Lioness, a sleek, insectoid representative of the Varan. Her multifaceted eyes glimmered with frustration. "And what has it accomplished? Earth stands defiant, and now other worlds are rising against us. Perhaps we should consider negotiations." "Negotiations," Valakar spat. "With primitives. They've embarrassed us enough already. I say we escalate." Threx's voice cut through the rising din. "Escalation has its limits. Humanity has proven they are not like the others we've conquered. They adapt. They resist. Every act of aggression only strengthens their resolve." The chamber fell silent. Threx's admission was heresy to some, but undeniable to others. He continued, his tone grim. "We must confront the possibility that Earth's defiance is not an anomaly but a catalyst. If we do not adapt, we risk losing more than this war. We risk losing the Dominion itself." The underground revolution. While the Dominion's leadership squabbled, humanity pressed its advantage. The Eos, Earth's first interstellar warship, became a beacon of hope not only for humans, but for oppressed species across the galaxy. Its crew, led by Captain Marcus Steele, carried out daring raids against Dominion supply lines and liberated prisoners from their grasp. One such mission took the Eos to Orvinus Prime, a key industrial world under Dominion control. The planet's surface was covered in sprawling factories that churned out weapons and warships. But beneath the factories lay a vast network of tunnels, home to a burgeoning resistance movement made up of the native Orvinians. Steele and his crew coordinated with the Orvinian resistance, delivering weapons and supplies smuggled from Earth. Lieutenant Aisha Patel worked tirelessly alongside Orvinian engineers, teaching them how to sabotage Dominion machinery and repurpose it for their cause. Meanwhile, Siren rebel leader Kaler, now a trusted member of the Eos crew, inspired the Orvinians with tales of Earth's defiance. "We thought we were alone," said one Orvinian elder, his voice trembling with emotion. "But now we see that even the smallest flame can light the darkness. We will fight, just as you have." Under the cover of darkness, the Orvinians launched a coordinated strike on the factories, crippling the Dominion's production capabilities. As the fires of rebellion spread across Orvinus Prime, the Eos slipped away, leaving behind a world no longer under the Dominion's control. The price of victory. Back on Earth, the Resistance faced its own challenges. The Dominion, desperate to regain control, unleashed devastating orbital bombardments on key Resistance strongholds. Entire cities were reduced to rubble, and millions of lives were lost. The cost of freedom was proving to be unbearably high. Dr. Ilara Vaughn, the heart and soul of the resistance, struggled with the weight of the sacrifices. She spent sleepless nights in the underground command center, poring over reports of casualties and destruction. "We're winning battles," she confided to Patel during a rare moment of quiet. "But at what cost? How much more can we endure?" Patel, ever the pragmatist, placed a reassuring hand on Vaughn's shoulder. "We endure because we must. Every life lost is a tragedy, but they didn't die for nothing. They died so the next generation can live in freedom." It was a sentiment Vaughn clung to, even as the losses mounted. She knew the fight was far from over, but she also knew humanity had no choice but to continue. To stop now would mean betraying everything they had fought for. The Dominion's gamble. Desperation drove the Dominion to take a bold and dangerous gamble. Threx, against his better judgment, approved a secret project known as Shatterpoint. The plan involved deploying a weapon of unprecedented power, a planetary destabilizer capable of causing catastrophic seismic events. The target was Earth. "The humans have proven resilient," Threx explained to the Council. "But even they cannot survive if their planet itself turns against them." The Council approved the plan with varying degrees of reluctance. Valakar saw it as a necessary step, while Lioness viewed it as a potential disaster. Threx himself felt a pang of unease. He had underestimated humanity before, and he feared he was doing so again. The weapon was deployed in secret, disguised as a Dominion supply ship. Its approach to Earth went unnoticed until it was almost too late. The race against time. When the Resistance intercepted the Dominion's encrypted transmission, panic swept through their ranks. The weapon was already in orbit, and its activation was imminent. The destabilizer's destructive potential was clear. It would render Earth uninhabitable, forcing humanity into extinction or exile. Captain Steele, aboard the EOS, immediately devised a plan. The warship, still in the middle of repairs from its last mission, would intercept the weapon and destroy it before it could activate. It was a near impossible task. Dominion ships were already closing in to protect the weapon, but Steele was undeterred. "This is what we're here for," he told his crew. "They think they can break us, but they don't understand who they're dealing with." The EOS launched into orbit, its engines blazing. As the ship approached the destabilizer, it was met with fierce resistance. Dominion fighters swarmed the area, their weapons hammering at the EOS's shields. Patel, directing the ship's engineers, worked frantically to keep the systems operational. On the ground, Vaughn coordinated a simultaneous attack on Dominion forces stationed on Earth, drawing their attention away from the battle in orbit. The Resistance fighters fought with unmatched ferocity, knowing that Earth's survival depended on their success. A desperate maneuver. As the EOS closed in on the destabilizer, Steele realized they were running out of time. The weapon's activation sequence had already begun, and their weapons couldn't penetrate its reinforced shielding. "We'll have to board it," Steele decided, his voice resolute. "Patel, Kaler, you're with me. Ramirez, hold the ship." The boarding party launched in a small shuttle, braving heavy fire as they approached the destabilizer. Inside, they fought their way through Dominion soldiers, racing against the clock to reach the weapon's core. Patel, using her engineering expertise, worked quickly to disable the activation sequence, while Kaler and Steele defended her. "We don't have much time," Patel shouted, her hands flying over the controls. "You've got this," Steele replied, taking down another soldier with a precision shot. With seconds to spare, Patel succeeded in disabling the destabilizer. The team barely escaped as the weapon exploded in a fiery burst, taking out the remaining Dominion fighters in the process. The aftermath. The destruction of the destabilizer was a critical victory, but it came at a cost. The EOS, heavily damaged, limped back to Earth, its crew battered but triumphant. On the ground, the Resistance celebrated their survival, even as they mourned the lives lost in the battle. Dr. Vaughn addressed the world once more, her voice carrying a mix of sorrow and determination. "They tried to break us," she said. "They failed. We have proven that humanity will not bow, no matter the cost. But this war is not over. We will fight until the stars themselves bear witness to our victory." The fire of resistance burned brighter than ever, and as the Dominion's hold on the galaxy continued to weaken, humanity prepared for the next chapter of their struggle, a chapter that would redefine their place among the stars. Fire among the stars. The destruction of the Dominion's planetary destabilizer was a victory that reverberated across the galaxy. On Earth, resistance fighters celebrated as the threat of total annihilation was averted. But even in their joy, they knew the war was far from over. The Dominion's retaliation would be swift and merciless. For humanity, this was not a time for rest. It was a time to strike harder and take the fight beyond their planet's fragile atmosphere. The alliance grows. In the weeks following the victory, humanity's efforts to form alliances with alien species began to bear fruit. The Siren, emboldened by Keller's success aboard the Eos, formally declared their rebellion against the Dominion. Other oppressed species followed suit, forming a loose coalition united by their shared desire for freedom. Dr. Ilara Vaughn, who had become the voice of Earth's resistance, extended an invitation to these new allies. A secret summit was held on Luna, Earth's moon, to discuss a unified strategy. Delegates from across the galaxy arrived in cloaked ships, each risking their lives to attend. The summit was a tense gathering. Many of the alien species were suspicious of each other, having been forced to compete for the Dominion's favor for centuries. Old grudges and cultural differences threatened to derail the meeting before it even began. Vaughn stood before the assembly, her voice steady and commanding. "We are all here because we share a common enemy. The Dominion has thrived on division, pitting us against one another to maintain its power. If we are to defeat them, we must stand together. Humanity has learned the hard way that unity is our greatest strength. I hope you'll see the truth in that as well." Her words carried weight, and slowly the delegates began to see the value in cooperation. By the end of the summit, the coalition was officially formed. They called themselves the Stellar Concord, a name that symbolized their commitment to unity in the face of tyranny. The heart of the beast. With the coalition in place, the focus shifted to the next phase of the war, taking the fight directly to the Dominion's core systems. Intelligence gathered by the Resistance revealed the location of Vulturus Prime, a critical Dominion hub responsible for coordinating fleet movements and supply chains. If Vulturus Prime could be neutralized, it would deal a crippling blow to the Dominion's ability to wage war. The Eos, still undergoing repairs, was chosen to lead the assault. Captain Marcus Steele assembled a joint task force that included human soldiers, Siren engineers, and Orvinian saboteurs. The plan was ambitious. Infiltrate Vulturus Prime, disable its defense systems, and deliver a decisive strike. As preparations began, Steele addressed his crew. "We're going into the heart of the beast," he said. "This mission isn't just about taking out a target. It's about showing the Dominion that they're not untouchable. They think they can crush us with fear. Let's show them what happens when you push humanity too far." The infiltration. The assault on Vulturus Prime began under the cover of a massive solar storm, which temporarily disrupted the Dominion sensors. The Eos, accompanied by a fleet of cloaked ships, slipped into orbit undetected. Lieutenant Aisha Patel and her team of engineers led the infiltration effort, using modified Dominion shuttles to land on the planet's surface. The landing zone was a sprawling industrial complex, its labyrinthine corridors guarded by heavily armed Dominion soldiers. Patel's team moved with precision, planting charges on key infrastructure points while avoiding detection. Kaler, ever the strategist, used his knowledge of Dominion tactics to guide the team through the maze of security checkpoints. Meanwhile, Steele and his squad provided cover, engaging in brief but intense skirmishes with patrols. The tension was palpable. Every step deeper into the complex brought them closer to their goal, and closer to being discovered. The turning point. As the charges were set, the Dominion finally realized they were under attack. Alarms blared, and soldiers poured into the complex, forcing the resistance fighters into a desperate battle. Steel, armed with his signature rifle, led the defense, holding off waves of attackers while Paddle's team completed their mission. Amid the chaos, Vaughn coordinated the larger assault from the EOs, directing orbital strikes to neutralize Dominion reinforcements. The Stellar Concord fleet engaged Dominion ships in orbit, their combined firepower overwhelming the defenders. Patel's team completed their task just as Dominion reinforcements arrived. "Charges are set," she shouted over the comms. "We need extraction now." Steele signaled for the AVAC shuttles, but the Dominion wasn't about to let them escape easily. A fierce battle erupted as the resistance fighters fought their way to the extraction point. It was a brutal, desperate struggle, with casualties on both sides. At the last moment, Kaler made a bold decision. "I'll stay behind and cover your retreat," he said. "This fight isn't over, but you need to live to see it through." Steele hesitated, but he knew Kaler was right. "You better make it out," he said, gripping the Siren's shoulder before leading the team to the shuttles. Kaler's sacrifice bought the resistance enough time to escape. As the charges detonated, Vultur's Prime erupted in a series of massive explosions. The Dominion's hub was destroyed, and the Stellar Concord's victory was secured. The cost of freedom. The destruction of Vultur's Prime was a turning point in the war. The Dominion's ability to coordinate its forces was severely weakened, and rebellions erupted across its remaining territories. For the first time, victory seemed within reach. But the cost was high. The Stellar Concord had suffered heavy losses, and Kaler's fate remained uncertain. On Earth, Vaughn struggled with the weight of the sacrifices made in the name of freedom. In a broadcast to the Coalition, she acknowledged the pain of their losses while reaffirming their resolve. "This war has taken so much from us," she said, her voice heavy with emotion. "But it has also shown us what we are capable of. We are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for a galaxy free from tyranny. And we will not stop until that dream becomes a reality." A glimmer of hope. As the Stellar Concord regrouped, they received an unexpected transmission. It was from Kaler, battered but alive, leading a group of Tyran rebels who had seized control of a Dominion frigate during the chaos on Vultur's Prime. His survival was a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, resilience could triumph. The war was far from over, but the tide had turned. Humanity and its allies had proven that the Dominion was not invincible. Together, they had lit a fire among the stars, a fire that would burn until the galaxy was free. And as the EOs prepared for its next mission, Steele's words echoed in the minds of everyone who heard them. "They wanted to break us. Instead, they've shown us how strong we really are."